Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special late night edition of Sirhan on X, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States. Hope everybody out there had a wonderful day on this October 24th of the calendar year 2024. Uh, get used to it because soon when I go to my day shift position, I will be tuning in live here from this particular time zone because I can't do it at days anymore. I got to had an internal interview to go to the day shift, and those I'll be getting in here soon in the next couple weeks. So the show will be live via the prime time zone starting real soon. So hope everyone out there is doing well. Actually, a pretty nice day out here today. It's like mid 60s over here in Cincinnati. I'm gonna go enjoy the night a little bit, catch the Thursday night tilt between the Rams and the Vikings. Uh, Looking forward. It's gonna be should be a good one. Puka Nakua is supposed to be back, but let's see how long he plays. But on some of the things I'd like to talk about today, speaking of the NFL, never thought I'd live to see the day where the trade deadline would have such buzz in the NFL. I mean, I see in the NBA and baseball, but never in the NFL. You've had some, pretty sizable trades in the last few days. Of course, Amari Cooper to Buffalo, Devontae Adams to the Jets. Of course, yesterday the big one was DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City. Maybe more might come, maybe not, but who knows? They're talking about Max Crosby maybe going to Detroit, which should be a good one. Cooper Cup to Pittsburgh, which I think would do wonders for Russell Wilson, because I thought that the vertical game was very well, and you put Wilson next to George Pickens. I think, excuse me, a Cup next to George Pickens. I think it's going to create a new dynamic for Pittsburgh because you saw Sunday night what that passing game was able to do for a guy like Najee Harris, who ran for over 100 yards against the Jets on Sunday night. In recent years, there's been some big trades in the NFL midseason that have had impact. I mean, before the biggest one was, of course, the famous ones, Eric Dickerson to the Colts back in '87, and of course, the famous one, Herschel Walker to Dallas in '89, to Minnesota in '89. Of course, the historic fleece. Of course, more recently of Micah Fitzpatrick to Pittsburgh, was a big one. That's one thing people forget about, but it turns out to be a pretty formidable one to help solidify Pittsburgh's secondary, which wasn't all that great in the previous years. So it was a great one for Pittsburgh, obviously, and of course Von Miller to the Rams from Denver, which helped them win Super Bowl 56, and of course the biggest one a couple years ago, Christian McCaffrey to San Francisco from Carolina for a boatload of draft picks, which Carolina stupidly flipped them all to Chicago to land Bryce Young, and we saw how that experience turned up. So there's been some big ones. There's been some solid ones so far. Maybe more buzz comes up at the trade deadline coming up in the next 10 days. So we'll see where that one goes. Something to watch closely, something I will be watching closely. You're talking about Cooper Cup's one. Also, of course, another rumor was Matthew Stafford going to Minnesota, which raises an eyebrows given how well Sam Darnold's played for the Vikings, given their record. But again, the trade deadline is it's been more compelling than NBA and baseball in recent years. Never seen it this compelling in the NFL in quite some time. So, but I wouldn't be surprised. There's a couple more marquee ones. I think if the Lions can land Max Crosby, that might be something. Especially when we consider what happened to Aiden Hutchinson just a couple weeks ago in Dallas with that unfortunate injury. Which hope he's able to get back soon. But if they can get a Max Crosby to replace him, I think they won't lose a beat. So that's the NFL landscape coming up over the next couple of weeks. Now I'm going to go to my field a little bit, the sport of boxing. Of course, the announcement today of the fight in Japan between Naoya Inoue and Sam the Coward Goodman. And Sam Goodman is a coward. I don't care what you guys say. And the fight's already over. So let's get ready for Naoya Inoue versus Jonto Nakagami, which would sell out the Tokyo Dome. About 60,000 fans, because those two can sell, especially Naoya Inoue, who sold out 60,000 fans in the title defense recently against TJ Dunny, and even before that against Louis Neary, where the Tokyo Dome was just packed to the max. I mean, the guy's a basic. Naoya Inoue is basically a pop culture icon in Japan right now, and one of the two best fighters in the world, pound for pound, worth Oleksandr Usyk. More than when you think about his career resume in the lower weight classes, one of the all-time greats, one of the real marketing fighters in the sport, one of the real, if you want to call it this, cash cows. Thing that cracks me up for the morons here in the States that say he needs to come over here. The guy can make all the dough he wants in Japan. He sells out the Tokyo Dome as much as he does. Anyone here who still thinks Naoya Inoue needs to come to the States to make a name for himself or make a living needs to flat out just get checked for CTE at this point, because the guy's a hit sensation in Japan. He has come to the States 3 times already. And one time, I think he ventured to Scotland, all for peanuts. And and basically, because he is a top 2 pound for pound fighter in the sport with Oleksandr Usyk, he can fight anywhere, anytime he wants. If he wants to come to the States, have at it. If he wants to stay in Japan, have at it. Now, of course, they're talking about a doubleheader with him and Nakatami here in the States before the end of 25, when they're supposed to have their All Japan clash over there in Tokyo. But Naoya Inoue doesn't have to come to the States if he doesn't want to. Sorry, American fight fans. You don't like it? Deal with it. He's not Tank Davis. He's the second best fighter in the world, pound for pound. Something Tank Davis can't lay a claim to. So, but as far as this fight goes, it's already over. Let's just fast forward to Inoue Nakatami. That's the one that's worth talking about. Although I said all along, I still want to see Nakatami fight Bam Rodriguez. I think it's much more of a compelling matchup, because I still think, in a way, still a bit too much at this point. Maybe if they fight in 26 or 27, I would probably favor Nakatami. But right now, I still favor Inoue until proven and seen otherwise. And speaking of the number one fighter, pound for pound, Oleksandr Usyk, it was announced today officially that he's going to fight the rematch with Tyson Fury for the heavyweight championship of the world. The legit heavyweight championship, not the fake belt Daniel Dubois has, because I'm not hearing it. The legit heavyweight championship of the world, and the champion is Oleksandr Usyk. The only one that has a shot at beating him is Tyson Fury. I don't care what belt Daniel Dubois has, because it's a fake belt. It's not a real belt. So you fight fans can just kill it with that one. Oleksandr Usyk knows how to read the mind games probably better than anyone in the sport right now. Because everyone who followed Tyson Fury in his career knows Tyson Fury likes to be some form of entertaining and sometimes outrageous character, tries to play mind games of his own. But if there's one fighter in the sport that can match Tyson Fury or beat him in the mind games area, it's Oleksandr Usyk. I saw it again at the press conference yesterday. His confidence level and his calmness is just second to none. When he's in the ring, he controls the ring very, very well. And he certainly controlled the press conference yesterday with extreme confidence, and as a guy who's just ready to basically put an end to everything when it comes to these two fighters, because he wanted to fight fair and square, even though we had some morons who are ignorant enough to think Fury won the fight when Usyk won that thing going away. I think the scores were just too close. I thought Usyk won that thing more lopsidedly. Of course, Fury had the rematch clause. He wanted to exercise it, understandably so. I guess he wants to get a butt whooping again, because that's what's going to happen in December when they go at it. Of course, it's part of the Riyadh season in Saudi Arabia. I have some good stuff over there. Of course, this first fight was a part of it, and Usyk really won this thing going away, in my opinion. And I expect him to dominate again and show the world why he is the number one fighter in the sport, pound for pound. I mean, Tyson Fury did us all a favor when he made the Deontay Wilder irrelevant in the 3-fight trilogy. But his 5 minutes of fame are up. It was up when Usyk beat him the first time. I expect in the second fight to be up this time, because I think Usyk's going to win this one going away. Um, I don't know if it'll be a stoppage or a decision. There's a part of me that says stoppage. There's a part of me that says decision. But either way, I think Usyk wins this one and wins this one big. I'm still appalled how many people legitimately think Tyson Fury is going to win this or has a chance to win it. Because he had his chance in the first fight, especially like a couple of the middle rounds where he started to use his reach and started to solve Usyk a little bit, but he went away from it. And when he went away from it and Usyk figured him out, it was over. Oleksandr Usyk's going to pick it up where he left off in the rematch from the first fight, and it's going to continue. He wins this one big. So it takes care of the more of the modern boxing talk for what's coming up here soon with Inoue and Usyk, the two best fighters in the world pound for pound. Of course, some other ones out there, Bud Crawford, Bam Rodriguez, Junto Nakatami. Now you can add Jaya Pataya to the mix. It's that's a hell of a list. Speaking of Jaya Pataya, word apparently has come out that Arthur Better Beef has entertained an interest to go up to cruiserweight and fight him. Good luck, because I said all along, Chris Billiam Smith isn't man enough to fight him. Rosito Ramirez isn't man enough to fight anybody, including Jaya Pataya. But Arthur Better Beef is, and you got to give him his due. Now, of course, they're talking about the rematch between Better Beef and Bivol, but you know, who knows what that's going to turn out. Better Beef has a mandatory, which is absolutely ignorant for, I guess, a guy who has no business fighting for a title shot. I expect him to go ahead and fulfill that. But there's good luck trying to fight Jaya Pataya at cruiserweight because nobody in that division is beating him. Actually, the only guy that might will be Oleksandr Usyk if he moves down like he says he is, which I think would be a super sensational fight in the cruiserweight division. Did we think about the brief history of the cruiserweight division? Maybe you could argue, for what it's worth, Opataya is a top 5 all-time fighter in that weight class because there really isn't much. I mean, it's Evander Holyfield from the 80s when he went undisputed. Of course, Usyk when he was there. Maybe a David Hay. He had a big hit here in the States with free TV when he was live from England. Just pulverized Enzo Macronelli and was turned him inside out. You can argue Opataya is maybe a top 5 all-time cruiserweight because due to the lack of the history of that division. So, but Opataya is making his mark in that weight class. And I think him and Better Be a fight would be interesting. But I think Opataya is just going to be way too much for him. So, but we might be headed for a rematch between Bivol and Better Beef before that happens. But even then, it is what it is right now. So we'll see what happens. Now to a bit of a historical moment. This is more of a transitional history because there's a lot of things I would talk about with this fight. The names might not overwhelm you unless you're deep root to the core, hard diehard fan of the professional boxing. This is a fight that took place 32 years ago today at Lewiston, Maine. This is between Joey Gamache and Tony Lopez. I bring this up for several reasons. We have people still complaining about not big fights not being made at the right times or big fights not being televised on free TV. This fight was back in 1992. It was on NBC. At the time, NBC had the NBA, and it decided to put this in the middle of everything. Marv Albert and Jim Lampley were there. Think about it for a minute. Marv Albert for the NBA, he did boxing in the 80s when it was on NBC. And of course, Lampley was in the studio, known for the so-called voice of boxing when he was on HBO and ABC. But those two were together at this particular event that took place. We always say never leave fights to the judges, especially when you go to a guy's backyard. That's what Tony the Tiger Lopez did on this day. He went to basically the champion's backyard in Lewiston, Maine, the same place that had Ali Liston too, by the way, the AKA Phantom Punch. Tony Lopez wasn't throwing phantom punches. He was basically throwing lethal punches and just tore Joey Camacho's face up from the third round on and basically left Lewiston, Maine with a lightweight championship of the world. A fight that was on a free TV, no pay-per-view, not even on HBO or Showtime. This was on free TV in an era today where everyone yaps about paying money for watch a fight. This was on free TV at a time of when free TV was starting to almost descend a little bit because the free TV fights from the 80s and 90s have gone fewer and far between. But it was actually a very good action fight. Joey Gamache, the title was basically vacant because Pernell Whitaker was cleaned out the division when Undisputed went up and became the best fighter in the world. But Joey Gamache got the belt. Resume was suspect at that point. Tony Lopez fought primarily out of the West Coast, basically in Las Vegas, Reno, Lake Tahoe, and his hometown of Sacramento, California. Very, very rugged fighter. Perfectly made for TV type fighter. The one that when you saw him fight, you wanted to glue on to because he always brought the action. Basically known for a 3-fight series with John Molina. One of the fights where basically the loss was where he was getting beat up so bad the fans just barricaded the ring with beer and water and all kinds of debris. Had a fight of the year in '88 against Rocky Lockridge to win a championship. Of course, he lost it. Won the first fight against Molina, lost the second fight to Molina, got it back in the third fight. Won his championship. Had a 2-fight series with the standout African Brian Mitchell, who's an interesting story himself. Lost the championship, moved up to lightweight went to Lewiston, Maine. Was supposed to be a showcase for Joey Gamache in his own hometown of Lewiston, Maine, but it didn't turn out to be because Tony Lopez went in there and basically just took the did what a fighter is supposed to do in the guy's backyard. Go in there, take the championship from the man, put him on his butt, and have your hand raised. That's what Tony Lopez did on this day 32 years ago in Lewiston, Maine. Traveled cross country to Joey Gamache's backyard, knocked him out in the 11th round to win the lightweight championship. Because we're now stuck in an era where everybody wants to try and drag rounds and try to appease in a selling of a product that doesn't work in our sport. And we wind up getting drawn out fights, especially when you go to a guy's backyard. Tony Lopez went to Joey Gamache's backyard 32 years ago and basically took care of business. He went there, supposed to be a showcase for Gamache. He had other plans. This was on free TV at a time when free TV boxing was starting to descend in the 90s because HBO and Showtime and, of course, pay-per-view started to take over. The whole world got to witness, what happened on this day. It was a good action fight. Joey Gamache probably won the first 2.5 rounds. I thought Lopez swept the last 6 rounds because he was pounding him with right hand after right hand after right hand after right hand until it put Joey Gamache on the canvas in the 11th round. Just tore his eye inside out. It was a great win for Tony Lopez at a time when his career was starting to hit a downturn a little bit, but it sort of rejuvenated it when he went to Joey Gamache's backyard. Maybe a lot of these fighters need to take notes from this fight of what to do in the guy's backyard and why you should never leave the fights to the judges, because 2 of the judges some way somehow had Joey Gamache up as one of them, I think by as many as 4 points in a fight that Lopez has started to take over and started to beat Joey Gamache up a little bit, which, everybody in our sport knows, especially in all combat sports, knows how judges can be. But that's why you never leave fights to the judges. And Tony Lopez showed, basically, if you pull this fight up, it's on the YouTube channel on all these platforms or wherever you want to watch it. That's how you're supposed to win a fight in the backyard. Get in there, beat him down, take him out, win the championship, leave town. This is what Tony Lopez did. Of course, Lopez had a couple fights later against, I think a guy named Gigante Bola. Tricky fights. Fought Julio Cesar Chavez in '94, lost there. Had a solid win over Greg Haugen, but that was pretty much it. But, of course, Joey Gamache fought Gussie Nazarov, got wiped out in 2 rounds. He fought Julio Cesar Chavez and the late Arturo Gatti. Both times he got beat up. But I think he's now a respected trainer in the sport, which he's given back. So I tip my hat off to Joey Gamache in that regard. I specifically brought up this fight because there's some fights like this. We get all washed up in the big names and the top guys wanting to fight the top guys. And when we see fights like this today, it's like nobody even cares about. There was a time when this fight would be on free TV nationwide This was on NBC at the time. At a time when NBC had the NBA at Michael Jordan's apex and was just the cream of the crop in all of sports. NBC had this on a Saturday night from Lewiston, Maine. No HBO, no Showtime, no pay per view. Regular TV, NBC. Today it's probably on one of those streaming networks for $40 a pop. We have too many people that's complaining about wanting to spend money on these sort of fights. I get it. But I remind you that this was a fight that was on free TV. Think about a guy what I had when I watched this in person at age 14. I don't have to worry about, I didn't care if I had to pay for it. This was a fight back then. You saw it, you knew it was coming. Let's go watch it. I mean, free TV, every fight we have on free TV, everyone complains about. Maybe some of you guys are a little bit too spoiled or too obsessed with the big names and the marquee guys. You don't pay attention to the sport. That's why you guys are even worse than casuals at this point. And that's why I stopped dealing with you again. I walked out on many of you guys many years back because of it. Now here I'm back in this community again, and there's some people still complaining about it. Like I said, Joey Gamache and Tony Lopez were not the biggest household names at the time. They weren't going to be first battle Hall of Famers. They weren't going to ascend to. They weren't going to challenge Pernell Whitaker or Roberto Duran or those guys among lightweights all-time great supremacy. But for this day, 32 years ago on free TV, they brought us a heck of a showcase in a fight where it was basically a good action fight where the challenger went to the champion's backyard, refused to leave the fight to the judges, and delivered a knockout. That's how championship fights are supposed to be won. Not by any of this herky-jerky, throw 1-2 and get the hell out of the way. You get out there, you go to the guy's backyard, you deliver the knockout, you win the championship, and you get out. Tony Lopez did that to Joey Gamache 32 years ago on free TV. Times have changed a lot. We know this. Everything's now under some, crazy app, crazy paywall, firewall, whatever the hell you want to call it. These 88th level technologies, 99th level technologies. Use the terms you want. This fight was on free TV. This probably could have been on HBO Boxing After Dark if they had HBO Boxing After Dark back then. But this is like well before then. I think Boxing After Dark came in like 96. But when you have free TV fights like this, and it was an action-packed fight between two action fighters, it was something you could flip on the TV and watch. Boy, do I miss those days. And I'm sure those know what free TV was back in those days like I did. They'll tell you the same thing. I mean, you can say what we have too many people just spoiled, rotten, and just ungrateful for what the sport has right now. I don't care who you're a fan of. I don't care what your reputation is. I don't care about any of that. 90% of you guys in the boxing community are just spoiled, rotten right now, and because you don't get what you like, you seem to want to turn the cold shoulder and walk away from it. I get it. You can blame it on a lot of things. You can blame it on, subscriptions. You can blame it on, paywalls. You get paid on extreme pricing, the bad product. Fine. Maybe the problem is you. Because you guys want the more so tuned with the big fights these days versus something like this. Maybe you guys paid attention to some fights like this a little bit. Maybe you can have a broader view and a bigger understanding of how the sport is and how the sport was and how the sport can be. I mean, there's still potential for the sport to actually do something of significance. Maybe the problem is not just the promoters, but also the consumers. You guys may have a bit of an open mind a little bit, because some of these fights today would have been on the free TV undercard of this fight 32 years ago. That was on free TV. Also on that day, to remind you, Raul Marquez, who's now a commentator for one of the networks, I want to say he's on DAZN, I believe. Someone help me out with this. Made his pro debut on the undercard. But maybe we all just need to you know, have an open mind and just embrace the sport instead of embrace the fighter. If you're just watching the sport because of a fighter, you're a fan for all the wrong reasons. That's why I walked down on a lot of you guys a long time ago. But to trace back to this, and I'm going to wrap this up. 32 years ago, I think it was like the last free TV fight on NBC till they did the PBC thing back in 2016, which bombed out. Joey Gamache and Tony Lopez World Lightweight Championship, legit World Lightweight Championship, not a belt. Tony Lopez goes to the fighter's backyard and takes care of business. And how does he take care of business? He gets a knockout. Any fighter out there who wants to win a championship in the guy's backyard, watch this fight, watch it carefully, watch how Tony Lopez gradually breaks this guy down in his backyard and then just knocks him out. Never leave fights to the judges. We've seen it time and time again what happens. And that wraps up this late night edition of Sirhan on X. I hope everybody out there is having a wonderful day and night. I will be back tomorrow, my regular scheduled time in the afternoon, to discuss many things. Until then, enjoy the rest of the night. Enjoy Thursday night football for my football followers out there, and enjoy the fights, everybody. To my fight followers, it's a good schedule coming up from now to the end of the year. Until then, good night, take care, and God bless.